Hello, friends. I am OmnusI, here once more in my Lair of OmnusI to answer a question from the RPGaDay, as posted by the RPG Brigade, a Facebook group dedicated to spreading the awareness and love of role-playing games in a hobby that has grown tremendously over the years, and we've all enjoyed for quite a long time. In my case, decades. So today is August the 2nd, so we will get to the second question that they pose, which is, what is the first thing you look for in an RPG? RPG, again, role-playing game, like Dungeons and Dragons, Shadowrun, Vampire the Masquerade, there's many of them. And this question, hopefully, my response will get out to people who themselves are thinking about games, maybe getting into one for the first time or expanding on their collection that they have. And the first thing that I personally look for in a game, if I'm looking for a new one, is to see if that game gives me something new. For instance, I have a handful of games. I don't have hundreds of games. I have the games that I've played in the past or games that I look to play in the future. There's a certain amount of utility in my collection. They're all things I intend to use. But if I'm looking for a new system, there are several things I have to think about. Number one, I have to think about my audience, my players, the people who come to my table every week to play, or in the future, people who may be at a convention that I can entertain with a game for them. I don't mind saying that, yeah, I've bought a few games that I don't intend to run at my table, but I intend to run once or twice or three times with total strangers out at a convention or at my favorite local gaming store. So, the first thing that I look for is, does this meet the needs of my audience? Will this entertain people? Will this be something that I will enjoy? Because I am a participant as well, and I have to consider that. If you give me a system that is overly cumbersome, that I will not enjoy running, that works against it. If you give me something that is arcane and so alien that I won't be able to find players who can connect with the game, that's a mark against it. The second thing I look for is eye appeal. As a customer, you will want to sell me on your game if you have created one. And if your presentation is very blah, boring, it's without decent art, for instance, it doesn't have a selling point that really attracts me to it, I'll pass it by. There's plenty of other ones. I also, of course, have my favorite themes. I have things that I enjoy and have enjoyed and continue to look for. For instance, I enjoy the Star Wars movies. Not so much the books and such. I've mostly been a fan of the cinema versions in the universe. If there is a book involving Star Wars, I'll certainly pay attention. And, for example, there's a series of books out right now that uses their own special dice, and I've had some friends who've been telling me good things about it, and it's certainly something I will consider in the future when I'm looking for a new game again. Another thing that I look for in a game is cost. I am not made out of money, nor am I personally wealthy, so I have to have a certain economy in my hobby. If there's a large buy-in fee, which right now is one of the prohibitive things that stops me from getting into this new Star Wars game, the books are rather expensive, I will hold off, or I will have to budget if I want to get in on it. Oftentimes, many of the games that I have fallen into were first presented to me by somebody else who took that cost up front themselves. Only after I fell in love with it did I then go and spend any of my own money on it. And quite honestly, places like half-price books or flea markets where books are known to be sold are a godsend. They really allowed me to inflate my library without spending a lot of hard-earned cash. Of course, I still support my favorite local gaming store, too. That's one of the primary places that I go to look for new product that I'm interested in. And I also believe very strongly in supporting your favorite local store. I mean, Amazon is... You can find some really fun, exotic things out there, but somewhere around you, the brick-and-mortar stores have been hurting lately. These online sales and things are closing off kind of a way of life, and I personally value that. It doesn't hurt, of course, that I am friends with the owner of my local store, but even so, if somebody makes their livelihood out of supporting your hobby, I just think it's a good idea to support it. So that, to me, is another thing that is rather important. Another thing I look for is word of mouth, which is usually a good barometer for how good a game's experience can be. I'm not saying it's the only thing to look for, of course. Some people just have bad experience with good games. But if I hear a lot of people raving about a particular game, it probably has some merit that I could look into. It may not be for me, it may be. That's some way that you can certainly judge how quickly you should rush into a game, or how much you should reserve yourself and wait for the sales, or wait for more content to come out, things like that. So those are the first things that I look for in a new game. The corollary to that is what I don't care about when I'm looking at a new game. What I don't care about particularly are the rules, because I'm adept at taking a game that I like and stripping out all the content that I enjoy and putting it into a game that I do enjoy. I have a couple of nearly universal games that I can borrow from almost anything. If there's plot that's worthwhile and there's beautiful art, I can certainly use those things in another game. Word of mouth is also another thing that I don't hold everything upon, because, as I said, I found a few treasures out of things people have discarded. Games like, for example, Shadowrun, some people seem to like to run down, although the enthusiasts for it are vocal. I find the game to be fascinating, and I have enjoyed it, and although some people say that the system is cumbersome and clunky, I have not found it so. So there are elements, and there are times when these are good guides, and there are times when you should ignore them and try something new. Also, I am not personally turned off when a company that has supported a game I'm looking at has gone out of business or stopped making the game. What's there may very well hold value, and I have a number of games that are out of print that are excellent. It's just the company had bad luck, were run by people who were writers and not businessmen, or a license ran out, they couldn't continue working on the game, what have you. In many cases, there's still excellent games out there that just because they're no longer supported doesn't mean that you can't take what's out there and continue on. And many of these games have very vocal and creative communities that have all the content you could ever hope for. That's my answer to this question. Day 2 of RPGaDay. Once more, I am OmnusI, and thank you very much for watching this, and hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, visit me on YouTube and like and subscribe. It'd be great. Otherwise, I hope you continue this journey with me. And tomorrow is another day and another question. I thank you once more, and I hope that you have wonderful adventures yourself. And I will see you soon. Farewell.